Welcome back to the Step Parenting Network. It's your host, Lena Shine. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe, join our community, because we're a growing community of step parents and all members of the blended family. Our hope is that you feel seen and appreciated in this journey. Now for this week's episode, I have joined with me my friend Mindy. Mindy is a certified Parenting with Purpose coach and certified step family coach with over 15 years of experience in specializing in the step parenting experience. Having become a stepmom with 4 kids in her 20s, she understands the unique challenges and complexity that comes with a step-parent role. Drawing from her own personal experience as a stepmom, as well as years of education and research, Mindy is dedicated to helping other stepmoms navigate their roles with confidence, offering them tools and insights to move beyond their struggles and create lasting, deeper connections. So thank you so much for making time to join us today. I have been following your work for some time now, and I must say I am very impressed on very different levels. First of all, being a stepmom for 17 years.
Yeah.
And starting the journey in your 20s. I just want to hear about that because I can't imagine what that would look like, what that experience looked like, and how that felt.
It was a lot, and definitely something that I really had no idea truly what I was getting into when I got into it. I was 24 years old and I became a stepmom to 4 stepkids. And it was kind of like the experience of baptism by fire. You just hit the ground running. I had a lot of hopes and dreams for my stepmom experience, and was met with reality very quickly. And I think that's what happens to a lot of us stepmoms, is that we come in really hoping and dreaming of what this family might look like, what our role will look like, what our relationships will look like. And we're met with reality pretty quickly in one way or another. And so at that point, I had to decide what I was going to do about it. And honestly, it took me a little bit longer than most. It took me about 7 years to hit my breaking point, where I really was just like, okay, my anxiety is at an all-time high. I'm completely burned out. I'm resentful. My relationship is struggling. I'm very confused and overwhelmed by everything, that all the feelings I'm experiencing, all the complexity that I'm experiencing. This is not at all what I thought it would be. And I had to decide it was either divorce or figure out a way to make this work. And so hitting that breaking point is what really was the catalyst for me creating my own healing journey, for me redesigning this role, me getting educated on the stepmom experience and blended families in general, and then creating what I do now is how I help stepmoms and their families to find a way to not only survive this, but to really thrive in this role.
And I think that is so important. And also, I believe every step parent or most step parents go through that season where you have the high hopes and dreams and a picture in your mind of what the role might look like. It looks easy come into it because you think, well, I'm great with kids, or everyone likes me. Someone would be crazy not to like me. Why wouldn't they like me? It would be easy because I'm easygoing. But then you step into it and you realize that it has so many layers of complexity and different personalities and very nuanced challenges that no one really told you before you entered into the role. And it's like, boom, surprise. And I feel like over time, step parents tend to just hold it together till they reach that breaking point where they realize, I need to do something about this. Otherwise, I just can't make it. And I think your story, just having that rich experience and then being able to redefine your role and then pivoting into helping other people is so special, is so much needed, because who better to walk you through your stepmom journey or to help you with a challenge that you're facing than someone who has actually experienced it and knows what it feels like. So thank you for all you do. And I am really glad we're having this conversation. Hopefully our community out there, as we're growing, will be able to tap into it and learn something from that today.
I love it. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the tools that you use to help make or redesign your stepmom journey?
I think the first thing that stepmoms need to understand is that the output of effort doesn't always match the results. So blended families do not grow and evolve in a straight line. They are very much 2 steps forward, 1 step back, maybe 1 step forward, 2 steps back. They are good one day and complex the next. Relationships are very slow to evolve in blended families. And I think there's a little bit of an illusion that sometimes, maybe a little bit of a feeling of safety created in the early days when you've got young stepchildren and they seem to be adjusting really well. They seem to be happy about your presence. They seem to be fine with you parenting. They seem to have zero issues with you being married to their parent, your partner, or they may never bring it up. Things seem to be going smoothly. That is oftentimes where I feel stepmoms get sort of comfortable in this idea that, okay, things are progressing, things are moving really quickly. I think I might be okay in this role. And then only to hit like a bump in the road, or kids push back, or maybe the ex starts to become high conflict years in and you didn't see that coming. The trajectory of blended families is complex in that there are a lot of opportunities for struggle and disconnection throughout. And unless you are mentally preparing yourself for that, those moments can be very jarring. They can throw you for a significant loop. You can feel very caught off guard by the kids, 2 years in, all of a sudden having issues with you. Maybe the ex was totally fine, but 2 years in, she all of a sudden is taking you back to court, and there are financial strains that you didn't anticipate, or there's a custody battle that comes up years in that you thought you had moved past. Those kinds of things, if not prepared for, can really cause you to spiral. And a lot of stepmoms are not prepared for the highs and lows of the stepmom experience, and just honestly blended family life in general. There is a lot that comes with the blended family life that is hard to anticipate. And so for new stepmoms, a lot of what we work on is not centering yourself. It's not personal. We have to decenter ourselves from a lot of what's happening in this blended family. When the ex is not willing to talk to you at a sporting event, or when she doesn't want to communicate with you, she just wants to communicate with her ex, your partner. Oftentimes stepmoms take that as a personal rejection and also a lack of respect. Maybe it's a lack of respect, but also it's really rarely about the stepmom. It's really about what she represents. It's about what the ex is feeling as far as loss and redefining her role in her children's lives and a new way of operating with her ex when he's in relationship with somebody new. It is what she's going through. It has very little to do with you on a personal level. It's what you represent. Same with the kids. There's a lot that happens, like either rejection of you by the stepkids, or the stepkids pushing back on your involvement in their life, or just maybe ignoring you and not wanting to invest in a relationship with you. Mm-hmm. That isn't personal either. Again, outside of this, if you were to meet these children in a neutral setting, they probably would love you. They would probably be completely okay with building a relationship with you. It's the setting, it's the environment that causes a lot of this. And so for new stepmoms, what we work on a lot is decentering yourself from this situation and learning to not place blame on who you are as a person or your character, or that you're doing something wrong necessarily. You may not be doing anything wrong, and they still might not like you. but it's because they're worried about what their mom thinks, or it's because they're worried that you're going to try and replace their mom. There's a lot of things playing out underneath the surface that new stepmoms or veteran stepmoms need to be reminded of.
Yeah. And I think it's that perspective shift or mindset shift that really opens you up to see things for what they truly are. Because a lot of times when you're going through the motions or the emotions of what is being thrown at you as a stepmom, you tend to look at it from your perspective. But having someone who would just help you to just take yourself out of the picture and look at it objectively, I think that really, for me personally, changed the game, and it made things, I don't want to say easy, but perhaps easier, because every now and then I have to go back to that place in my mind and look at the specific issues as is without me necessarily being in there. So I think that's a huge point. I came across, before my stepmom journey, I came across, after my stepmom journey, actually, I came across a lot of nuanced labels and terms for blended families that I never even knew about. And one of them is the child-free stepmom and the childless stepmom. And I was so surprised to hear people talk about a child-free stepmom and a childless stepmom as being two different things. I'm curious to know if you've heard those terms or labels and what you really think about them.
You know, it's funny. I haven't heard child free as much, and I wonder because there's new terms popping up all the time and getting coined kind of on social media, and so I would be curious to know how people are categorizing child free. I would assume my first guess would be that child free is by choice. And so it's more of this empowered approach and perspective. And childless a lot of times indicates that there weren't, and not always, because childless stepmom has been around for quite a while. But I would assume if we compare those two titles, that one is by choice and one is not necessarily by choice. And so there's a different energy to both of those, a different tone and a different lived experience. Those two things can change the way a stepmom operates and feels in her role pretty significantly.
Yeah.
A childless stepmom who, in which I hear about a lot. I work with a lot of women who are childless, not by choice, just by circumstance. Sometimes they're going through infertility problems. Sometimes it's because there's an age gap in the relationship and she's never been married and she's marrying somebody who had been married and had children. And so she's trying to get her life started and the idea of being a mom, but hasn't quite gotten there yet. And so her husband is a little bit further down the road on that. And those situations are pretty complex in a lot of ways, because there's a lot of emotion that comes with specifically infertility. If you're a stepmom and you're around children and you are responsible air quotes for children, because I think the responsibility of step parents varies. But there's a lot of emotion that comes up with that role, especially if you're trying to conceive your own child. And so I think those particular dynamics are very complex, and they need a lot of women in those situations deserve a lot of support navigating that, because I don't think it's talked about enough, first of all. And I think the position that you are in as a stepmom, having to care for your partner's children while struggling with infertility, is uniquely challenging and heartbreaking sometimes.
Yeah, and that is so true. And you're right with the explanation of the terms, whereas the child-free stepmom is more of the empowered approach, where she decides not to have children. She doesn't mind having children in her life. And so when she meets her person and he has children, she's okay with it. But she herself has decided not to birth her own children. So yeah. Those are very interesting terms and labels that people coin over time.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting about the child free? What I find, because I actually have a lot of women who come to me who are child free or childless, either one, but they are not bringing kids into this dynamic and they do not have kids with their partner. And what's interesting about the child free dynamic that I actually find to be so challenging from what I've heard from my clients is that when you become a parent, naturally, most of us, at least, if we go the traditional route, we will have a pregnancy for 9 months. There's a lot of mental prep that happens prior to bringing a child into your life. There is a lot of hormonal prep that happens. It changes the way we prioritize our life, and it's a slow progression. And then you have a baby and you have all of this aid with hormones and lifestyle that changes when you have the child and slowly starts to infiltrate into your life, right? So you get kind of this, I mean, having a newborn is like baptism by fire. It's like, it is like throwing somebody in the deep end. It's very challenging. I have 2 children of my own who are now 16 and 15. And I remember just how jarring it was to have a newborn. But at the same time, you are still sort of baby stepping into this new dynamic and you are learning as you go and you are progressing with this newborn child. There is a lot that is asked of a new parent in just the day-to-day life, the sacrifices that you have to make, the accommodations, the lifestyle changes are extreme. But you have hormones and biology helping you in most of these circumstances to want you. You have a drive most of the time to do this lifestyle change because you want to keep your offspring alive. That is how biology keeps the human race moving, right? Otherwise we'd all be killing our babies. So biology is a wonderful thing. Step parents don't have any of that. And so when I talk to childless stepmoms, it is a huge ask of a childless stepmom to make this massive lifestyle change to accommodate children. And that's not to like say that, boohoo stepmoms who choose this. It's not that. It's about empathy and understanding for the huge amount of expectations that are placed on somebody who is partnering with kids, who has lived a life of child-free lifestyle, like a child-free lifestyle where you have freedom and choice and can vacation whenever you want for the most part, and you have quiet evenings and your weekends are yours, and then you partner with somebody who has kids. And it is jarring for anybody who jumps into that. So there's a lot of sacrifice that is expected or asked of a stepmom who is childless or child-free, I guess, when partnering with somebody, and it can be quite a jump for them mentally. And so you have to give yourself a lot of grace. If you are a child-free stepmom and you are partnering with somebody who has kids and you're feeling overwhelmed by that experience and how much you have to accommodate and bend and shift your life in order to meet these expectations and this lifestyle of having kids in your home, you have to be very patient with yourself because society will tell you it's normal and it's just you signed up for this and that's great. Yeah, you did. But it's a huge ask of anyone. It truly is. And so I think we have to be really empathetic with that choice.
Yes. Yes. You're absolutely right. And I think that also support needs to be given from the partner in understanding how much of an ask and what it takes for the child-free or childless stepmom to take such a leap into the family dynamic and join them. So I'm hoping that with conversations like this, perhaps the fathers and the biological parents will be able to maybe listen in just to have a peek of what that life looks like for their spouses so that they can give them more grace. Because I think aside giving grace to yourself, sometimes it will be easier for the step parents if their partners also give them grace as well. And it would feel like a cushion and a boost of confidence as well. So I think that's really awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really important that you have the support of your partner and that if they don't fully understand you, that's okay. They may never fully understand your perspective, but you need to advocate for yourself and for your needs and your expectations and your boundaries, because your partner won't always know exactly what you need. And so you're the person who says, this is too much, or I need a break. That's how we prevent burnout. That's how we prevent resentment. So that is an important piece, because our partners don't always fully understand what we're going through. It's our job to ask them for what we need.
Yeah, that's very true. Another layer of this, and I was just thinking about this, there's this pressure also for childless stepmoms to bring in the hours baby or a baby between they and their partner quickly because they perhaps want to feel a part of the family. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the pressure should be ignored because bringing a child in does not necessarily do that. And so I think there's a lot of misconceptions around what creates unity within families. And the research is not suggesting that bringing a baby in creates more unity or belonging. It's just too complex. There's too many layers to it for us to really know exactly what's happening in these families when we bring a baby in. Is it true that some people have that experience? Yes. So if you search the internet, you're going to find all kinds of experiences, and each one of them is valid. Some people really believe that having an ours baby brought everyone together, and I believe that to be true for them. That experience may have happened for their family, but it's also true that there are other families in which they brought an ours baby in, and it created more of a divide because the children felt like they were having to compete for attention. The children that were their prior stepkids, maybe they feel like you treat this baby differently, you love this child more, and so that creates a divide. Maybe this is a really common one, is where the stepkids feel jealous of this new baby because this baby gets a nuclear home. They get mom and dad in the same home, and they don't have to go between homes. And so there is some jealousy that can come up in those situations. So having an ours baby because you feel like it's going to make things better is not the answer. Having an ours baby because you genuinely want to have a child with this person and you are prepared as prepared as you can be. You can never be fully prepared for what could come, but prepared for things to not go perfectly. That's the reason to do it. So I always tell my clients, I have a lot of clients who come to me who are on the precipice of this decision. And so I work with this a lot, but I always say to clients, don't not have a child just because you're concerned about what could happen. That's not the right answer. If you want to have a child and it feels like something that is right between you and your partner, but are concerned about what could happen, you still should fulfill that desire to have a child. You can work around potential fallout. You can hire therapists, you can hire coaches, you can get the support that you need to help your family come together if there is a divide. But you know, once the window passes, you can't go back and remake that decision. And sometimes the window closes. So I do feel like it is important for you to get clear on what you want. Do you want a child because you actually really want a child, or do you want a child because you think it's going to solidify your place in this family? Those are two very different takes on having a child.
Yeah. And I don't think it's fair to that child to just, sorry, I don't think it's fair to that child to just be the solution or the glue that would bind everyone together. That's a lot of responsibility, and no child has to become that. So, yeah, blended families are really complex, aren't they?
They're very complex, very complex. There's a reason why the divorce rate for second families is so high. It's because this is not easy to do.
Yes. And I have, upon starting this community, I have received tons of stories from different people and their experiences, some just wanting to vent and some really just seeking help. And I have a specific story. I already spoke with the lady and we had a conversation, but I want to bring this story so that we can talk about it, Mindy, especially because, I mean, you have 17 years of experience, okay? And so this is quite layered, and I couldn't think of any better person to have this conversation with Hopefully, the lady is watching and the conversation and what we discuss is helpful to her. But let me bring this up and let's discuss this story. I tend to remove all names from every story that I read. And so I'll take out the names because she does mention her name here. And then we'll discuss that. So I'm going to go ahead and read. Okay, so she's a stepmom and she says, "This feels weird to even say, but I don't really know who I am anymore. I'm 24 years old and I don't have any kids of my own. I've been married for 2 years and my husband has an 8-year-old daughter. When we first got married, I told myself I was gaining a bonus daughter because that's what everyone says, right? And I really believe that. I bought her little matching bracelets for us. I helped her decorate her room in our house. I learned to braid hair from YouTube because she said her mom does the cool braids. But no one told me how confusing it would feel to not be a mom, but also not be a mom. Last week she had a school play, so I took off work early, curled her hair and helped her practice her lines in the living room. When we got there, she ran straight to her mom, which I expected. After all, that's her mom. But when the teacher came over and said, "And who are you?" I froze. And I said, "Oh, I'm just," and she mentioned her name. Not mom, not stepmom, not anything important, just she mentioned her name again. But it hit me in that moment that I do so much behind the scenes, but publicly I don't really exist. I grieve quietly a lot, not because I regret marrying my husband. I love him and I love her. But sometimes I sit in the car after dropping her off and feel this ache I can't explain. Like when my stepdaughter drew a my family picture last month, and it was her mom, her dad, and the dog. No me. And I told her it was beautiful, and I meant it. But later that night, I cried in the shower so no one would hear me. And she continues to say, "I'm expected to show up like a parent. I pack lunches when she's here. I schedule dentist appointments if my husband forgets. I even helped her with her math homework last Tuesday for an hour because she was frustrated and my husband was tired. And it's confusing because I care so much, but I don't have the authority. When I correct her tone, I'm suddenly reminded that she already has a mom, so I stand down. I don't have the biology, and sometimes it feels like I don't have the identity either." And then she adds another layer of complexity here. She says, "We're also trying to conceive, and that adds this whole other layer. Because what if I never become a mom? And then what am I? Just a supporting character in someone else's motherhood story? I didn't realize how invisible this role would make me feel. Everyone sees dad, everyone sees mom, but I'm just the extra adult in the room. What do I do?"
I think that is a beautiful representation and a very honest representation. So I commend her for being so honest and articulating that so well. That's a perfect representation of what the majority of stepmoms are experiencing, but are not saying out loud. There is so many layers to what she just said, but oftentimes we come into this role with the best of intentions. All of the stepmoms I have worked with and encounter in my coaching business are incredible, truly incredible human beings. And I don't just say that because they're my clients. They are loving and caring and selfless and just really beautiful people. And most of them come in and they have the similar ideals as to what she described in her role. So she comes in and she's really stepping in and supporting her stepdaughter in every way possible that she can. And on paper, that looks really good. that looks like a loving step parent. And I will say that actually is a loving step parent, but the complexity is that she is learning, unfortunately, the hard way, as many of us do, that this relationship and this role is multi-layered, and it is not going to yield the same results that we are seeing all around us with the bio parents. So dad can do the same things that she's doing, and he will get much more return and reward and recognition for his efforts than she ever will. And there's a lot of reasons why that is. And we could go into all of that, but it can get a little complex. But essentially, there are a lot of things playing out beneath the surface here. And the relationships are, step-parent, stepchild relationships are on a fundamental level different. They are fundamentally different. She will not, one, because society views step parents differently. So that's a big piece in this. She will probably never get the recognition that she deserves publicly from school and coaches and her stepdaughter's friends network and parents and all of that. She will just not get it. It's rare that step parents get recognized in that way or acknowledged. It happens, but it's not happening to the same level that you are seeing with bio parents. And so that's a part of it. Also, these relationships just don't function the same way. So the feelings that she's feeling right now, where she feels invisible, well, her stepdaughter's having similar experiences in that she's not hardwired to recognize her stepmom the same way she will naturally recognize and appreciate her bio parents. And that's not because she's not grateful. That's not because she's not a good kid. That's not because she wasn't raised right. That's because she's not actually hardwired to experience that. Kids are, we underestimate attachment and psychology and biology too often in these circumstances. There's a lot happening here that is not just basic. It's like primal. It is hardwired into us. And kids are not necessarily hardwired to view a step parent in the way that they do a bio parent and give feedback to that person the same way they do their bio parents. They aren't drawn to an attachment the same way they are with their bio parents. And so they will receive all of this, and it doesn't necessarily go as far as it will with a bio parent. That child will not feel drawn. And I don't want to say 100% of the time, because relationships do form with step parent, stepchildren. That's, that we are able to form healthy relationships, and kids have reported feeling close to a step parent and supported by a step parent. But the important thing to take away is it is different, and it will not develop as quickly or in the same way. And so for her, I would say, she really needs to redesign her role. There needs to be a role redesign. She's eventually, and maybe she's already there, but she will eventually, which happened to me 7 years in, I hit a breaking point and had a massive burnout and realized that things needed to change in the way that I showed up, because I could not continue to show up giving without like a nervous breakdown happening. So, and that's where most women get to. She's probably right there where she's realizing I'm giving and I'm not receiving enough in return to make this feel sustainable. And so at that point, we have to redesign. So she needs to find a system that is actually sustainable for her. Part of that will be redesigning her mindset, what she actually expects from this role, because that's a huge piece in all of this. If we expect it to look the same as it does with bio parents, we are going to be disappointed 9 times out of 10. That's not a great way to go into this, right? Because you're already setting yourself up to feel like crap. 2, truly, she probably needs to take a step back for her own mental health and redesign the way she shows up. Now, that doesn't mean we don't show up at all. It doesn't mean we stop investing in these kids at all. It just means we cater it to our actual capacity. And we start to figure that out with lived experience. It sounds like she's already figuring out this is too much. So she needs to start to play with, okay, where do I step in? Where do I not? What's my mindset around this? Who am I to my stepdaughter? What is my role? What's my partner's role? All that stuff needs to be defined much more clearly in a blended family than it does even in a nuclear family.
Yeah. You said something about kids are not hardwired to recognize the step parents as much as they would, or the same way they would with their biological parents. But I want to flip that switch and let's think a little bit about the experience also of the step parent, where a
Mhm.
step parent, maybe with her children, may not feel that level of connection or bond with their stepchildren. Would
Mhm.
you say that step parents should not train, step parents should treat their biological children the same way that they treat their stepchildren? Or should there be a difference in the amount of affection or the amount of love that is given to the stepchild?
This is a really complex topic because the harsh reality that a lot of us step parents don't like to hear is that there is a higher probability of mistreatment of kids when there is a step parent in the home. So I just want to put that out there. And I'm obviously a huge advocate of step parents. I work with stepmoms. I think step parents are some of the most incredible people doing some of the hardest work out there. But I think that speaks to the complexity. And we, again, are not hardwired, just like the kids are not necessarily hardwired to lean into a relationship with us or to desire it. We, in turn, are not hardwired to have their best interest at heart. That's a conscious thing. That takes actual conscious effort. And a lot of the women I work with, that comes natural for them because they're good people and they're very invested in these children and they are here for the right reasons. But even with the best of intentions, sometimes we have to be aware of our maybe default operating systems, that are at play here. So the biology and the attachment is not there. And that's not 100% of the story, but it's a big piece of the story that we have to be aware of. And step parents all too often, because there's this narrative in society that's, love these kids like your own. That is the most wild thing to me because I say this all the time on social media. Nobody in no other relationship does society say, for example, love your sister like your auntie. Love your auntie like she's your sister. Love your grandma like she's your mom. Love your dad like he is your brother. Like, what are we doing? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. We love people appropriately based on the relationships. And you don't love your grandma any less than you might love your sister, but you love your grandma like she's your grandma. And the role that your grandma plays in your life is different than the role that your sister plays in your life. The connection, the closeness with your sister and the shared memories that you have with your sister will be different than the shared memories you have with your grandmother. But that does not necessarily mean that they don't have similar impacts on how you feel about them or impacts on your life as a whole. Love your stepkids like they're your stepkids should not be a horrible statement. And I think it's a horrible statement because of Disney and movies that have been put out about step parents that are evil, right? And so there's this narrative that if you love your stepkids like your stepkids, that automatically means you're a bad person, which is so crazy to me. But I think we need to take control back of that narrative. The goal is not to love your stepkids like they are your own. That is a completely dysfunctional and toxic thing to do. They are not your own children, and we need to accept that. Your relationship with your bio kids will be different than your relationship with your stepkids, and that does not make you a bad step parent. It makes you realistic. It makes you human. You come into your biological children's lives at conception. Okay. So as a mom, especially if you carry your babies at the start. There is biology and hormones and attachment, and all of that goes into forming a very different relationship. And there's no shame in that. There should be no, blame in that. It is fundamentally different. What you do for your kids will be different. Your relationship will be different, and that is okay. What you do for your stepkids, it should be different. Not all stepkids want to be treated like your bio kids. Like I can tell you from personal experience, if I had gone up, I have a 15-year-old son. I love on my son. He hates it right now at 15, but I will hug him and kiss him on the cheek at a basketball game and tell him how proud I am of him. And we are very affectionate and loving. I would have never done that to my stepson. Not because, one, it would have been awkward for the both of us because I didn't raise him from the time he was a baby. We don't have that relationship. And also, he would have died if I did that. That would have been wildly inappropriate for me to do. So it's okay that it's different. And that doesn't mean that I don't love him. And that doesn't mean, I say this all the time, my stepkids could call me at 3 a.m. in the morning and say, I'm in trouble. Can you come help me? I can't get a hold of anyone. I would be there in a heartbeat for them. Just like if my son called me at 15 and said, can you come pick me up? I'm in a bad situation. I would get up in like 0.2 seconds to be there. It's the same. I will show up the same way in many ways for my stepkids and my bio kids, but the relationship will not look the same. And there is no reason why it should. It is different fundamentally.
Gosh, I love your take on this because a lot of people, just as you said, like society has made it seem like loving your stepkids the same way, but having a different relationship with them makes a step parent look bad. And so a lot of times step parents find themselves pretending like it's the same, whereas deep inside of them, they know that it's different. And that in itself adds a layer of pressure on you because you have to keep the act up. You have to keep acting like this is the same because you don't want to be labeled as a bad step parent. And changing that narrative, I think that society needs to look at it differently and change that narrative. And that's why conversations like this is really so important. The more people have conversations like this, the more people get to accept and truly see it for what it is.
Yes, I think it's really important that we talk about this openly. And it's also, important that stepmoms find their people where they feel supported and heard and seen for their experience, because not everybody's going to understand your stepmom experience. In fact, I feel like the majority of people out there will not understand it and they will pressure you to be a certain way. But that is not what's going to make you feel confident. You pretending that things are exactly the same is going to make you feel worse. And so you've got to embrace it and own it and know that people who get it will get it. Find people to surround yourself with that are empowering you. And don't listen to people who really have no clue what this is like.
Yeah, I totally agree. Great take on that. So I have a few questions here for you. Well, they're what I call rapid fire questions, but we just want to know a little bit about you and don't think about it too much. Just whatever comes to you, you say that. So let me know. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So first 3 years of step parenting, what would you do differently today, looking back?
I would have stopped hustling for my worth early on. I would have stopped feeling like I needed to prove myself so badly to these people. And I would have just allowed things to happen organically. Mm-hmm.
That is beautiful. What is one word to describe your step parenting journey so far?
One. I feel like the whole dictionary could be used for this. Complex. Like it is, and in the best way and in the worst way, both. Complex in every way. Like my love is complex and runs very deep for my stepkids and for my blended family. The role is complex. The emotions that come with it are complex. The relational strain is complex. The reward can be complex, like in the best way. There are so many layers to this stepmom role and operating in a blended family, but it's all very complex. truly. And so I think embracing the complexity is the best way to move forward. Just accepting the fact that it is going to be complex. Don't try and push this into a corner and expect it to be simple, because it is far from simple in these blended families.
True. Okay. Group chat drama or silent tension? Which one is harder to handle?
Silent tension. I cannot stand unspoken anything. I am very much like a call it what it is. I do not like passive aggressive behavior. I don't like undertones. I like to know where I stand with people. And so I can stomach group chat drama all day. Like, great, bring it on. As long as you're saying it like it is, we know where we stand. Silent stuff, no thank you. I'll pass.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't stand it. I don't like it. I don't thrive in a tense environment. It's better you just tell me. And if I have to apologize for it, I will. Or if we have to talk about it, I will. But at least I'll know what's on your mind.
Yes. It's the undercurrent of something being wrong that eats away at you.
Yeah. Okay, so next one. What's one thing you swore you'd never do as a step parent, but now you do, or that you've done?
Something I swore I'd never do. Probably around boundaries. I came into this very I would say very naive and optimistic. And I really thought that I would be able to stomach it all, that I would just kind of just lay myself out there and we would have sort of just an intensely close relationship with everyone. And I think that was honestly a little bit of dysfunction from my childhood, if I'm being honest. I think I had a misunderstanding of what healthy relationships looked like, which I've worked hard to figure out through therapy and other means. But I think I really didn't think that I would be somebody who would enforce, especially 17 years in, would still be enforcing boundaries in these relationships. And I have learned that boundaries are the only way that I will survive and learn to thrive. And so I really didn't see that coming. I am very boundaried. And I think maybe people don't expect that from somebody who's 17 years in and does this for a living, talks about the stepmom experience. They think probably that everything is very close and easy and, perfect. And it's not at all. The reason I can maintain healthy relationships is because I am very boundaried out of love, but I did not expect that for 17 years in. I did not expect to need boundaries. So I think that's been unexpected for me.
And I think also the reason why you would be a good coach or even have capacity to be able to help other people is also because you yourself have experienced so much. And so, you know how your test becomes the testimony to be able to help other people. And I feel like that's the case with you. And I think with me as well, my experience has been ridiculously crazy. And I think that through that experience and through the trials and tribulations and through all that darkness is where you actually develop that light to be able to carry other people through their own individual journeys as well.
Yeah, it's a gift and a curse.
Oh boy.
It is. None of us asked for it, but here we are.
Who adjusts more, you, your partner, or the kids?
What do you mean by adjust? Like accommodates?
Yes, accommodates.
Okay. In the early days, me, hands down. I accommodated and adjusted everything about myself, how I showed up to make other people comfortable. And that changed. So now I would say all my stepkids are adults. And so I still see them as our kids. And I probably always will to some degree. And so we ask less of them still, even though they're adults. I think as they became adults, we expected a little more of them, because they were capable of more, and their maturity and their life experience meant that we could, they could give them more responsibilities within the family and expect more of them from a maturity standpoint. But overall, I think our philosophy is that my husband and I bend. So, and we bend equally, hopefully. It's never 100% 50-50, but we try and support each other. We try and accommodate. We try and adjust in ways that help each other to thrive. And so in the early years, it was me. Now, the only reason I'm married 17 years is because we have reworked that. And he accommodates, he bends, he understands the complexity of this much better than he used to. And so, thankfully, otherwise I don't know if I'd be here because that is not sustainable. I would have probably said, okay, on to the next, because that's too much. So yeah, I think at some point you need to find a way to balance that out.
Yeah. I think a lot of times who your partner is and how they support you in the journey really contributes to how you thrive or survive in the journey. Whether you survive or you're drowning or you're thriving, really a
Yes.
lot of that has to do with how your husband or your partner supports you in the journey. So that's really good
Yes.
to know. And also, it's good to know that things change and there are seasons in step parenting. So you used to adjust more, but then you adjusted to adjusting more to the point where there is adjustments from everyone, which tends to make things easier.
Yes. Yes. There's definite seasons to the step parenting journey, and you and your partner need to work to adjust things. Like, that takes work to move through seasons. But if you do the work, you can definitely get to a place that is a lot more comfortable to exist in versus feeling like you're in constant fight or flight.
Oh, yeah. Very true. All right. What's something you wish someone had warned you about before you became a step parent, but now you understand deeply?
Probably something I wish somebody had warned me about. I think it has to do, I think one of the biggest shockers for me was the way my relationship would look with my stepkids. I think, being that I've been here 17 years and my stepkids are all adults and I have grandbabies now, my relationship with them is very different than what I thought it would be, even being 17 years in. I would say that, I have a very close relationship with my stepkids compared to the majority of step parents. And so I think I'm, maybe a little bit of an anomaly in a lot of ways, but even still, I find that it is different than what I thought it would be. And I think that is what I hear so often from stepmoms is we have this expectation of what these relationships will look like. And it's based off of our own lived experiences, our own family units growing up, what we saw in the families around us. And it shapes the way we expect people to show up and expect people to interact with us. And I definitely came in with ideals in the beginning and had a vision for what that would look like. And I had to learn to accept what reality was and what other people's wishes were, and that this will look different. They each of my 4 stepkids have a different relationship with me. That's another thing that I think is interesting, is that they are all unique in the ways that they relate to me, how often we talk to each other, the ways that we interact. Each child is different. They're all adults, but it's something that you will have to work on internally and really learn to accept what is right in front of you. Right? What is right in front of you? And those stages, each relationship will go through different stages. So, I went through a really long period of time with one of my stepkids where they wouldn't even talk to me. They wouldn't acknowledge my existence. And I'm talking like 2 years. So And I thought this would never end. And so that's something that I think is really tough because you think it's going to last that way forever. And that same stepchild, when they were 16 and 17, could not stand me. And now I talk to that same stepchild who is in their late 20s on a daily basis. Like all of the time we talk, we hang out, we do things, we have a lot in common. So I think you have to, one, accept that there's going to be stages, and two, it might look different even still. It might look different than you thought. And that's okay. It can still be a really beautiful relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think it's talked about enough, the fact that if you have stepchildren, that you could have very different relationships with each child, and that itself could change years on. And so I remember I clearly have very different relationships with two of my stepchildren, very different relationships. And initially, I used to judge myself for feeling like I'm not close enough to the other as I am to the other child. But then I realized that they want different things. The other person actually is more open to having a deeper relationship, while the other child is not there yet. And I have to respect that. And I think once I understood that it's okay to have these different relationships, I just let go of that pressure and just let things be. And we're okay. And everyone is happy, even though we have very different relationships.
Yeah. And that continues on well into adulthood. The relationships change significantly through each stage of life that these kids go through. And that is totally normal. And you might go through stages in your journey where they barely talk to you. You might go through stages where they talk to you all the time. You might go through stages where they have issues with you. That if there's so many stages, it doesn't necessarily mean you've done something wrong. It just means that we're in a new stage of life, and how you handle that stage of life will determine how you come out of that stage of life. So you really want to minimize damage during difficult stages of your journey with your stepkids, so that when you come out, you don't have as much repair to do. And then the relationship can kind of pick back up again after that stage is through.
Yeah. I know I call these rapid fire questions, but they're not as rapid.
I know. There's so much to say about it.
Yeah. Well, I have the last one here for you. Finish the sentence. Being a step parent has made me more.
Ooh. Oh my gosh, I could say so many things, but I will say confident, because I thought I was confident coming into this role and I got rocked. Yeah, and it was alarming how insecure my stepmom role made me. I second guessed everything about who I was. And so this role has really been the catalyst and a container for me finding a deep sense of confidence. One that I'm so grateful for now in my life. So grateful, because I take it with me everywhere. Obviously, our confidence is with us everywhere we go. And I rarely find that any situation in my life even compares to what I've been put through as a stepmom. And so when hard things get thrown at me, it's like, oh, okay, well, I've been through much worse. So we've already done the work, and I've done the work on myself. I feel and it's, still have moments, but the confidence that I have been able to, develop from this role, I will be forever grateful for.
Yeah, I can so relate. And that's one of the reasons why coming into a stepmom role, you really don't think too much into what it would look like, because you analyze yourself and realize, well, I'm confident and I am great at managing relationships. I'm a nurturer. I have all these strengths. And so I've got this. And then you come in and you realize, oh, wow, maybe there are these areas of my life that are really like portraying themselves to me, and your weaknesses are right there in your face, and you're not the same way. And I think that starting my journey as a step parent, I'm definitely not the same person that I am now. I am much better. Now, will I love to replay the entire experience? Maybe no, because it wasn't that pleasant, but I am so glad that I'm much better because of that experience. And it changes you and makes you better. So I can totally relate there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Mindy, it's been a great conversation. I could go on and on with you, but I would leave it right here. I'd love to have you come back sometime later and we'll talk about different things. But I really enjoyed this conversation and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. This was lovely. I'm so glad that you created this platform.
Thank you so much. Now, before I let you go, where can people find you?
You can find me on pretty much all social media platforms at Mindy Kyle Coaching, and you can find me at mindykylecoaching.com as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.